think it was unfortunate that when the Chief Minister spoke, he implied that a committee would only be happy if the outcome was to accept Syrian refugees, which I think is to make a very sweeping generalisation and assumption, which I think is not actually fair. The committee that was proposed was very clearly to explore the advantages and the disadvantages of accepting vulnerable Syrian refugees to the Isle of Man, and that would have allowed this discussion to be properly aired in a transparent and open way, to explore all of the evidence openly, and to then make recommendations accordingly. And I think that was absolutely the right and the proper thing that should have happened. And I think to now make broad comments about what the committee might have done is presumptuous at best.
Have you been to express those opinions? Has Daphne Kane been to see the Chief Minister? Because it's all being played out on Manx Radio and over social media at the moment.
Yeah, I certainly haven't had a chance to as yet. I was in meetings yesterday, and I've been in meetings this morning. But I plan to have that conversation. I've talked at length with him about, the fact we sit on different sides of the argument, and I don't have an issue with us having different sides. My challenge over this very much is about the evidence. And this should be an evidence-based decision, and that evidence should be available openly and transparently for both the scrutiny of politicians but also the scrutiny of the public, because I think they absolutely rightly deserve that opportunity.
He did say that we weren't part of the resettlement plan and that we wouldn't be entitled to any UK government. It would have to come out of existing budgets, and they decided the overseas aid route was the better option.
That's absolutely. You say that's what he said. We haven't seen the evidence about how the calculations might be worked out. We haven't seen the discussions that might have happened with the committees in the UK and how we reached that conclusion, and that was very clearly what the committee looked to do. I think that there's no question that there's a positive has come from the money that was sent through the Overseas Aid Committee, and I absolutely want to, thank the Chief Minister for his support in doing that. I think that's a really key part of the picture. But I also think that there's a very big difference between sending a blanket to someone and providing rent to someone than to providing a home and an opportunity to someone. And I think that those are two very different subjects. And I think that to suggest that, well, we've done that as an alternative is not necessarily the right way to look at it. I think that actually it should have been perhaps looked at, is there something else we could do in addition to that action that we took, that now maybe we could look and explore the possibility of accepting Syrian refugees through the resettlement scheme.
He did say as well, housing lists here have waiting lists.
They do have waiting lists, and I said in my speech I feel that these are two very separate issues. I'm absolutely committed to the ongoing work of the Poverty Committee. I'm absolutely committed to us getting the housing list properly managed. The data that came out showed that we do have quite a number of houses that actually are not currently in use but are held in stock, and there's a piece of work I think to be done there around actually ensuring that we're using effectively all of the houses that we have within the housing stock to get people into housing, which is the key here. But the opportunity was there for a committee to explore all of that and to then report on the big picture and to give clear evidence-based recommendations around this subject.
So you completely refute the smokescreen allegation?
Yeah, I just think that it's unhelpful. The committee was very clear in its intention. Alf Cannon stood up and said we might as well vote to accept 25 refugees now if this is voted through. Again, I think that's wholly unfair unless he's questioning his own evidence. I actually think that the committee out remit was very clear within Daphne's motion, and that's why I was very happy to support it. I think it would have come up with one of two positions. One, that absolutely we're not in a position to accept Syrian refugees and we could have put this to bed once and for all, and the other option was that we come up with a opportunity perhaps where we could consider bringing refugees in. It may be that the number wasn't appropriate, it may be that the families weren't what we should be looking at. I know Jersey have talked now about bringing in the unaccompanied minors, but it would have given that opportunity for the big conversation in an open and transparent way.
If it had been the vote the other way, it would have been quite an interesting selection process, wouldn't it, for the committee?
It would have been, and I think that's...
Because you've had to have reflected both sides, I would have thought.
Absolutely, and I'm very clear that when there's a committee put together, I do like to have someone who's very much in favour, someone who's against, and someone who may be sitting on the fence. I think that to just have a committee that was very much of people who feel we should be resettling Syrian refugees would be unhelpful. To have a committee of people who feel we shouldn't would be unhelpful. But also I do believe, though, that whoever was on the committee would have had a duty to examine the evidence, and that was what this was about. And I'm very much open to seeing what that evidence is and then being able to make an informed decision based on that. At the minute, I think the majority of the decisions and thoughts that I'm having are very much based around emotion and around a passion to help people and to be doing what's best. And at the minute, I can't say absolutely for 100% that we shouldn't be bringing Syrian refugees here, because I've seen no evidence about that.